How's it going, everyone? Morella here, and this is going to be my Spikemuth Cup games in the actual competition. So this is my team. I've got a fairly defensive backbone of Pex, Amoonguss, Clefable, and Zapdos, and I'm gonna try to make progress with my Bandit, Urshifu, and Swords Dance Garchomp. So I have a few ways to get in my threats. One is my Volt Switch Zapdos, and the other is Spore from Amoonguss. Kind of in hindsight, because this commentary on my team is recorded after the actual tournament. In hindsight, I think I probably should have made my Zapdos especially defensive, and that would have given, or even specially defensive with Eerie Impulse, and that could have given me a lot more outs against my special attacking problem Pokemon. So and the other problem I noticed was the team was still pretty passive, even with Urshifu and Garchomp. So I ended up losing to a fair bit of stall breaking strategies, which is unfortunate, but I will learn and try to do better next time. And another thing is this, as you might realize, this is a very long video. So excuse me, I guess, stuttering or finding my words. I just didn't really think it was worth it to go for several takes and try to re-record where I messed up or anything like that. So you guys are gonna get what you get. So hopefully this is gonna be interesting or informational. Let's get into the games. So first game against a pretty interesting team with a Drapion, but as I noted before, my worst matchup here is of course definitely the Slowbro. And I am going to try to make up for that by, I'm almost forced to bring Urshifu here. And fortunately for me, he doesn't really have a good switch in here. Other than the Sylveon, of course. And that will just give me a free switch into my Amoonguss. And Clefable is going to be useful to try to counter the opposing Dragapult, which could be threatening to my Amoonguss and Urshifu, depending on the set. So fortunately for me, I do lead the Urshifu against the Slowbro. That I needed to do that because I didn't want to lead into a bad matchup turn 1. And even if I were to have led against the Sylveon, the one thing that really beats the Urshifu, I was going to get a free switch out to Amoonguss. So he is forced to switch out, and he goes into Talonflame, suggesting that he doesn't have a good switch into the Urshifu, and we knew that going into the team preview for sure. And he goes into the Talonflame, just dies, no flame body burn or anything like that. So fortunately for me, I'm gonna start off the game with a free KO. And he brings in the Dragapult. That makes sense. He didn't want to sack the Dragapult. Goes into the Talonflame instead. But I do have a Clefable, and this is gonna let me just go get a free switch in. He could do sizable chunk with, for example, a special set with a Shadow Ball on the switch in. That could have done quite a bit, but it is very unlikely that he was gonna go Shadow Ball into the what do you call it, the Urshifu, of course. I'm just gonna go for the Moonblast, get as much damage on it as possible. And because I am physically defensive, I am gonna take nothing, even from a Life Orb stealing Dragapult. It does less than half, and Moonblast just takes it out after all that chip damage. So this is going to be a pretty easy win for me here. Only thing I probably need to consider, make sure not to do is switch in my Urshifu directly into the Slowbro. And let's say he's like some kind of offensive Slowbro with, what do you call, the quick draw ability, and that could potentially lose me the game if I get to it KO'd on the switch, for example. So I don't want to do that. I'm just gonna get a safe switch, and either he sacks he kills this Amoonguss, and I get a free switch in him that way, or I'm gonna put it to sleep. and that is going to let me get a free switch in as well. So yeah. It does have Quick Claw, so I was correct to not switch in directly into Urshifu. That would have given me quite a bit of a chance to just lose the game on the spot. But that's not gonna happen here. I'm gonna go for a Wicked Blow. Even if he wakes up here, he is not gonna be able to win a KO, and he doesn't even get the activation. So yeah, I'm gonna take this first game. I could say it's a pretty good start. Hopefully I can win more. And this is the second game. Pretty awkward, I guess. Pretty awkward team preview here. I do want to bring Urshifu, because Metagross is very threatening to me. I also want to bring the Clefable, which has a great defensive matchup against basically everything on their team. Finally, I do... The last slot is the one that is most awkward, because I kind of want to bring Toxapex, but at the same time, Toxapex bleeds a lot of momentum. And so I end up bringing Amoonguss instead in order to get things, get my offensive threats in safely. So I do lead with the Amoonguss against the Urshifu. I'm going to take a ton of damage from this, especially if it's choice banded. And I'll be able to tell what item it has as well. So, but I do have the Focus Sash. I am guaranteed to get this sleep off, and he doesn't have a good switch in to negate the sleep unless he has some kind of hidden Lumberry somewhere. And most of his Pokemon are not going to be using Lumberry. That is bandit damage for sure as my Focus Sash activates. And I'm going to be able to put this Urshifu to sleep. And I think I do bring in the Clefable because Clefable has such an amazing matchup here, and I am just going to be able to get a free Moonblast off or a free Flamethrower off. Either or is going to be pretty good for me. And in fact, here you can see that his only real check to Clefable is his Metagross, so I do end up going for a Flamethrower here. I do think he is going to preserve the Urshifu, if anything, for the fact that he is locked into Wicked Blow, and that Flamethrower actually also ends up activating his weakness policy though, which is a problem. But Clefable does have Unaware, and this is a pretty good chance to KO with the Rocky Helmet damage and the 2 Flamethrowers. So I do go for the Flamethrower, and actually I barely miss out on the KO, and this is going to really mess me up, because now I really don't have a lot of options in terms of being able to actually check the, what do you call it, the Ice Cube. So I am going to take down this Metagross with me, but if he brought his Ice Cube, this is a really poor matchup for me. So kind of bummed out that I missed out on the KO there, but do think maybe what if I were to, instead of going for the Flamethrower prediction, I could have gone for the Urshifu prediction, click some move like either Close Combat, Wicked Blow, and try to make progress that way. And that way I would have been able to preserve my Clefable at full health. But here, I do go for the Close Combat. My best bet here is just kind of praying that he doesn't bring the Ice Cube, but he does have it, and unfortunately I am going to lose the game here. I do go for the close combat here, actually. And let's see what he goes for. His Ice Face activates. It's going to be really fast at 130 base speed. And he goes for the Icicle Spear instead of a move like Belly Drum. I thought for sure that he would go for the Belly Drum. And I didn't switch out into Amoonguss because I thought the Belly Drum was so obvious. But here, that turn really also bums me out, because if I switched out into the Amoonguss, and if he didn't have Belly Drum, then I could go for the 2 Wicked Blows, and I wouldn't have been at the -2 -2 defenses. And that would, as you saw, even for a -2 defense, the Icicle Spear did almost nothing because Ice Cube is just that weak. So I am going to lose, and if he were to be one of those Ice Cubes that actually don't have Belly Drum, then I definitely could have played around that, which really bums me out. Like, okay, he probably still had it, but he played like he didn't, so that bums me out. And this third game here, I am against the Toxtricity. And it's one of those special poison types that I really don't have too much for. I am going to be using the Urshifu, and either Urshifu or Garchomp. I think Urshifu is my best bet here to make progress with. Amoonguss is going to be my special tank, and Clefable is going to be my check to Dragapult, because otherwise, if he is special Dragapult, I am put in a pretty awkward position, because I can't Sucker Punch, because I'm afraid of the Wisp, right? And Amoonguss is going to be getting this really easy turn 1 matchup win here. I have options. I can try to predict the U-turn as he does here, and I'm gonna be able to nail whatever comes in with this Spore, and he definitely doesn't have another Spore immunity here, unless he has a Lumberry or something like that somewhere. And I'm gonna be able to get this Spore off against this Toxtricity, and that opens up the avenue for me to just go directly into the Urshifu and do a lot of damage. He takes his first mandatory turn of sleep, and I do think about what I should be locking into. I do end up going for the Wicked Blow, which I kind of somewhat regret, because he does reveal the Copalion here. And it's not only going to be resisting the Wicked Blow, it's going to also get a +1 boost from it. And because it is also a Steel type, it is unable to be Clear Smog, that attack boost. And now, suddenly, I thought Amoonguss was going to be decently good against this Copalion. But now, if it's a physical Copalion, now I'm in a really big trouble, because either Amoonguss or Clefable is going to be taking a lot of damage. So here I kind of flail about here almost. I do go into the Clefable here, but I don't think it's going to be saving me either way. So yeah, I do go into the Amoonguss here, and it turns out that I actually lived a +1 Iron Hit as I expected. Like, I thought Amoonguss would be a good counter to Cobalion, but clearly not, especially with the +1 boost. But even then, I should have still gone for this as opposed to something else. And now he Volt switches out, and it's going to earn his Toxtricity another wake up turn. And now I'm in a lot of trouble now. Here I basically have to hope that he stays asleep here, but he makes the smart play here and switches right out. I think he should have gone straight into the Cobalion if he were expecting anything, but Rillaboom is a decent mid-ground here. He doesn't really lose too much from going Rillaboom instead. And am I gonna close combat? I think I kind of have to go for the close combat or the Wicked Blow here and hope that it KOs, but I don't think it's gonna KO. Alright, so it will depend on how much investment his Rillaboom has, but yeah, he has enough HP to survive this Wicked Blow. And he goes for the Drum Beating instead of Wood Hammer or Superpower or anything like that, which means that I actually live. Kind of surprising. But this is gonna give me at least a glimmer of hope here. I'm gonna go right back out into the Amoonguss. And here I was kind of expecting him to hard switch out just because Amoonguss was such an obvious hard counter, but he also reveals to be non-Bandit, which makes sense. Bandit would have KO'd the Urshifu for sure, and at least would have done a lot more than just whatever he did. And now my Urshifu is at such low health. It's looking pretty grim, guys. And that means that I'll be starting this tournament 1-2, which is not a good record, but I can't really complain here. I do feel like I should have picked Zapdos here, and I definitely got punished for underestimating the Cobalion, right? Because even though Amoonguss can check the Cobalion offensively, I can take its attacks and go for the Spore, but that's about where it ends, right? Like, I'm not able to threaten much damage other than with the foul play, and yeah, he is just gonna not take anything from the foul play, right? If anything, that's gonna help him by going for the attack boosts. So I don't think there's too much to be explained here after this. I'm just gonna let the game play out, and yeah. Yep, and Cobalion comes out. Amoonguss is at low, Clefable is also low, and it's just gonna win the game on its own here. So yeah. Yeah, so 3 games going negative, not a good start. And I need to get a win here for sure. Fortunately, he doesn't have a real good switch into Urshifu, I think. And Amoonguss actually has a really good matchup here. Amoonguss able to put everything to sleep. And I'm going to bring Zapdos this time because I'm not going to underestimate either the Corviknight or the Metagross. And Zapdos is going to be able to beat either of them 1v1. So let's get into the game. Skip to the game. So my opponent leads with the Corviknight here, which means that he does get the favorable lead matchup here, but I do have the Focus Sash, so I'm just gonna... And there's also a good chance that Corviknights don't have a flying move, or even if they do, there's a good chance that it doesn't even bring me down to the Sash. So I do go for the Taunt. I did want to cover a potential double switch out because the the Zapdos switch in was fairly obvious, and the Spore was pretty low risk, right? Like even though he got the perfect turn, he actually had the taunt first of all, and he went for it as I went for the Spore. But even then, this was not a good matchup for him, right? Because I was able to recover from that turn pretty easily thanks to the Zapdos in the back. And I'm gonna go for the hard switch out into the Amoonguss back out here, right? And there's no chance he just stays in just to Brave Bird, and he does have a whole Lantern in the back. So yeah, I'm able to not lose momentum against the Lantern, not Volt switching into the Volt Absorb, and I'm gonna get a very free Spore here, right? Because even though Corviknight does beat Amoonguss 1v1, he can't switch into the Spore without getting crippled. So this, I was kind of able to manipulate the matchup as I wanted it. See, right? Like, because I was me going into the Zapdos against the Amoonguss is very low risk, and me going into Amoonguss against the Lantern is also very low risk. But him going into Corviknight against the Amoonguss is not low risk. So this is how I am able to stay on top of this whole matchup cycle loop here. So I'm able to make progress and no progress for you, right? Like now I'm able to get the Spore onto the Corviknight, and I can just go hard into the Urshifu. Even if he gets the first turn Wake, CB Urshifu actually beats the Corviknight 1v1, and I'm just gonna go for the Wicked Blow here, probably. So yeah, I do go for the Wicked Blow here. And he switches out, but to what, right? He goes into the Pyukumuku. And that doesn't stop me from going for the Wicked Blow. Unaware ignores offensive boosts, but it doesn't ignore Choice Band. So I get a free KO onto this Pyukumuku here. And I can do that Amoonguss Zapdos dance all day. And he just realizes that. And he forfeits the game here. So, taking one back. Now this is also a pretty threatening game here. He has the Zapdos, which I feel like I also need to bring the Zapdos for that in order to actually check it safely. But on the other hand, if he brings in the Mamoswine into the Zapdos, now I'm in a lot of trouble. So I end up going for the Clefable here, even though it's not as good of a Zapdos answer. I am gonna try to make do with this and try to check the Mamoswine with the Clefable and the Urshifu. I do go for the Spore here, kind of hoping he just Brave Birds and puts a lot of recoil damage and gets put to sleep. But he has Taunt, so this is like really, really bad here. And I'm going to go hard into Clefable, right? So this was kind of what I was afraid of the whole time, right? I didn't want to switch hard into the Brave Bird against the Zapdos. But he goes for the U-turn. Even though that didn't work out for him, I definitely cannot blame that, because in case I brought the Zapdos, he definitely wants to U-turn out on that instead of Brave Bird into that and bringing the Mamoswine, right? Like, so this ended up working out for him, and he brings in the Rillaboom. So my guess is that he probably has the Mamoswine in the back, and Mamoswine cannot beat Clefable 1v1 unless it gets fairly lucky with either crits or if he has Icicle Crash instead of Spear and flinches, things like that. So hoping that I can just switch into Amoonguss. If he U-turns here, that would be like really bad, and because now he knows that I don't have Zapdos, and he can probably freely Brave Bird. Now also that my Amoonguss doesn't have its Focus Sash either, so I do go for the Spore here. I kind of am a bit scared of the Zapdos switch in, right? Like, so I can't afford to go for something like Clear Smog and let it in for free. And I am kind of hoping that he doesn't have Lumberry, especially because he went for this taunt, right? Like there's a good chance if he just had the Lumberry, he would have not taunted, just gone for the immediate damage. But he did go for the taunt, and he led with it, and that's kind of where I'm thinking, hey, this guy might not have other sleep answers. But he goes for the Sword Stance, and that means that I am in a pretty tough spot, but Amoonguss still should be able to beat this relevant 1v1 thanks to the Clear Smog and the Foul Play, so let's go for that. He goes for the knockoff. Let's see how much damage this does. I go for the Clear Smog, and let's see how much health I am at. I might be able to synthesis off here, and I'm gonna do exactly that. And he goes for the knockoff. I do think that's pretty much a bit of a misplay here, because right, like he could have either gone for like the Sword Stance, force my Amoonguss to go for Clear Smog, and make progress that way. but this knockoff just ends up doing nothing for him, right? So Amoonguss is healthier for basically nothing. He doesn't get much momentum out of it. And here, this is where I think he might actually switch out here, because right, and I do catch the Zapdos on the Spore, and that is wonderful because that was his main check, and he wanted to get the Zapdos in safely somehow. He just had to find the right turn to do it. That wasn't the right turn for him, and I'm able to profit off of that Spore, as his biggest threat is incapacitated. And now, right, like even though Zapdos can beat the Urshifu 1v1, because it's slept, the way he switched right back out, it didn't. He wasn't even able to burn a single turn of sleep, right? So he can't even switch into anything safely now. Yep, and this is prime position for me now that I'm able to switch around between Clefable and Amoonguss. I'm just gonna go for the switch in, because right, like even though the Zapdos is asleep, it is still the biggest threat. I still want to keep my Clefable healthy enough to at least take a hit if he gets a quick wake up, right? And that is his main win condition, so I'm not gonna risk that. His knockoff does very little, and I'm able to go for the Clear Smog, super effective damage, and the removing the Swords Dance boosts. And now, I think if he tries to go for a Swords Dance again, I can just go for either the Foul Play or the Clear Smog. I'm able to just kind of beat this matchup 1v1 damage trade when I come out on top of the damage trade, right? And I get free Clear Smog damage, and that is incredible. And let's see how he tries to wake up the Zapdos, right? Like, I think that is now his big out. He could probably bring in the Zapdos on the Clear Smog or the Foul Play, right? Like, so even because now that it is slept, I can't put it to sleep again, you know? Like, he's gonna be able to get a relatively free switch in, as free switch-ins go for an offensive Pokemon like Zapdos Galar. Takes minimal chip, but chip nonetheless. That will definitely be put into the Moonblast range now, even with the uninvested Moonblast. And Zapdos' natural bulk, it's not enough to take the super effective Moonblast. So yeah, he is trying to wake this up. He did burn his first turn of sleep, so if he were to kind of get more of those switch-ins on the Amoonguss without me predicting it, that could be really bad. He goes into the Sylveon, which is a bit of a problem, but I do have a whole Amoonguss in the back, and that's gonna be a free switch-in to Sylveon as free switch-ins go. And it's at -1 special attack as well. So yeah, so that's what I mean by free switch-in as free as it gets. Because anything with Yawn can kind of put any switch-in a bad spot, right? Like, so, do I stay in and what do you call it? He goes Spore. If he stays in and Hyper Voices, I could put the Sylveon to sleep, and that'd be really good. But if I stay in and Spore, and he goes out into either the Zapdos or the Rillaboom, that could be really bad. Actually, I avoid the worst, because he goes into the Rillaboom as opposed to the Zapdos. If he went he went immediately into Zapdos here, I think that was a way better play, because that would have given him all the turns he needs to actually wake up with the Amoonguss, right? With the Zapdos, right? But I guess my hope there then would be that even if he were to wake up with the Zapdos, I can just kind of go right back out into the Clefable, let it go down to Recoil, and rock Helmet. But he knocks up the Rocky Helmet. Smart play. I kind of wanted to cover him going straight out into Zapdos still. But I'm gonna go for the Clefable switch on the knock, and that lets him get some progress against this Clefable here. He does go straight right back out into the Sylveon here, and I'm gonna get a little bit more chip on the Sylveon. Kind of hoping I get a Moonblast special attack drop anyways, but I don't think it really ends up mattering too much, because if you think about it, my Clefable does have Unaware, so it's not like that helps him, her take attacks. And as for Amoonguss, it wasn't going to take anything from the Sylveon anyways. The big problem is what Amoonguss isn't about how I'm able to I'm threatened by the Sylveon offensively, but how me staying in with the sleeping Amoonguss potentially lets him wake the Zapdos, right? That is the big problem, not the Sylveon going for damage against Amoonguss. So I have to think about that here. I do go for the I do burn the first turn of sleep. I do click Foul Play, which I don't think is. If I were to awake, that wouldn't be the best move. But this is my first turn of being awake, so I don't think it really mattered. So now I actually have a chance to wake here, and I'm gonna go for the Spore. But he forfeits. I don't know why he did, but we take those, as they say, because he could have won with the Zapdos, you know. So this is going to be the 5th game. He has nothing for the Urshifu defensively. I kind of want to bring, what do you call it, the Urshifu as well as the Garchomp though, because that Rotom Heat is kind of threatening. And I also want to bring the Clefable for the Salamence and the Conkeldurr, which are his main ways to check the Urshifu offensively. And I bring in the Garchomp for the Rotom Heat, because otherwise that could be pretty bad. And he leads with the Bisharp against the Urshifu. That is really bad matchup, and he reveals the Air Balloon, so he doesn't even have some like Focus Sash, Metal Coat, Metal Burst. So I'm just actually gonna go for the Wicked Blow, because it's not like, even if he gets this prediction right and stays in, can't do much back, and I'm gonna be able to do a KO him through the resist. And yeah, he just goes into the... This does quad resist the close combat, but come on, the Wicked Blow was always going to be my play. And it lives with the Focus Sash, but that's not going to save him. I can just go for that again, and it's not like he can go back into the Bisharp, because even though it resists it, it's going to be to a KO. So I take my free KO here with the good lead. And I wonder what he can even do to come back from this. I guess if he were to bring in the Salamence, that could be his biggest way out. And I do have a Clefable for that. He could go for the Rotom Heat, or he does bring in the Glaceon. Interesting. And here, I'm thinking about this, right? Like, there's few ways this could go really wrong, and one way it could go really wrong is he is some like Focus Sash, brings out my what do you call it, the Urshifu, you know, and then if he somehow beats this Clefable 1v1 with freeze or something like that, that is his main way out. So I'm just gonna go right into the Clefable and basically sack it. He does go for the Blizzard. I guess I don't know if he why he has Blizzard as opposed to Ice Beam or Freeze Dry. Freeze Dry is a really good move, and I'm just gonna be able to break this Air Balloon on the Bisharp, and that means that I can just again sack this Clefable. Never mind. I go for the Garchomp here, and I should be able to still win this 1v1 with the Garchomp, I guess. he goes for the Iron Head, doesn't do enough. A Sucker Punch wouldn't be able to knock me out here either. So I'm just gonna be able to go for close combat with the Urshifu twice and win the game. But I was just kind of trying to minimize my odds of getting lucked. Because so yeah, let's see if his Glaceon has Ice Shard or anything. Goes for the... I guess he doesn't have it. And that is a pretty bulky Glaceon, so maybe it could have actually lived the... what do you call it? The CB Wicked Blow, I guess. But now any potential Focus Sash is broken. I can just go in for the kill with the Urshifu. Click close combat. Now I got quite a few wins in a row, strung a few wins in a row. Now I'm gonna match up against Darmanitan Galar form, and that is a big threat. I do want to bring Toxapex, which is going to be my main way of checking it, but it has Earthquake, so I'm gonna have to kind of dance around that, put it on a timer with a Toxic or anything like that. And I do go for the Garchomp here, but I'm not sure it was actually the correct play, because I did bring Garchomp in order to check the Volcarona, because it potentially could have Psychic, but this does leave me significantly weaker against the Darmanitan Galar, so I'm going to be able to get a free Toxic against the Mimikyu. His biggest way out would be if he has some kind of substitute or curse set, but odds are, and one thing to note is actually if someone leads Mimikyu, the chance of it being some kind of substitute curse type of utility set goes drastically up. But he goes in for the Ferrothorn against the Toxapex, and that is honestly a bit of a weird play, because even though Ferrothorn does resist the Scald, this is still not really a winning matchup, right? Because Ferrothorn, it's not like it can do much to the Toxapex damage-wise, and I can just keep going for the Scalds here, honestly. And if he goes for Iron defenses and gets too many boosts and could potentially be threatening, I can just haze it. So I'm just gonna be able to burn this Ferrothorn eventually, right? And kind of hoping that once the Ferrothorn is burnt, I can use my Clefable to check this Ferrothorn with the Flamethrower. I don't want to go immediately into the Clefable against this Ferrothorn and just eat a Gyro Ball. That could potentially lose me the game, and I don't want to do that. But once I get the burn on it, this is a way better matchup. Honestly, I do feel like he should have tried switching out. Eventually, because even though he gets multiple curse boosts, and that isn't still really much threatening, because I can just haze the boosts away. And right, like he did, I think the first turn going right out into the Toxapex, into the Ferrothorn against the Toxic was a good call, because he doesn't want to just go hard into the Darmanitan and just get Toxic the first try, because that would let me go for recovers against this EQ, and my Clefable could kind of switch into the EQ, recover, that would be kind of really bad for him. So, yeah, I do want to keep my Clefable healthy, right? So, because Clefable can tank 2 Scarf EQs from the Darmanitan at full health, but if I take any chip, that goes away. So yeah, I am gonna speed this up after this because I am just going for the skulls repeatedly and he isn't switching out. So I'm gonna let the recording fast forward until either he switches out or I get the burn. Finally, I get the burn, and that means that I can switch out this Toxapex. I could even go for one more recover, and I can switch out the Toxapex, and I'll be at full with the Toxapex. Even if I am not completely full on the switch out, Regenerator will take care of the rest. And now that this Ferrothorn is burnt, I feel completely fine going hard into the Clefable here. I just do need to watch out for its health, of course, because I do want it to stay healthy decently for the earthquake damage. Here he goes for the Leech Seed, and this is definitely a good play. Gyro Ball wasn't going to be doing much of anything, and that I could have recovered that off. But now, with the Leech Seed, it puts puts damage on me that I can't recover off too easily, right? Like, even if he goes down with his Ferrothorn, that could have... He's still doing 2 ticks of Leech Seed with this Ferrothorn. So I'm trying to stay healthy as much as possible, but that is going to make my life a lot more difficult than a single Gyro Ball would. So good play on him. And he actually goes hard into the Darmanitan. So that could have worked out really bad for me if I were to just flamethrower into the Darmanitan. And I would definitely be in range of 2 EQs. So he goes for the Earthquake here. And I take a ton. But I wasn't going to be able to recover that off. Especially as he seems to be adamant on the Darmanitan. And that was gonna still do incremental damage against my left Black Sludge and recover. So I do have to go for the Toxic here, as opposed to Scald, which could lose me the game 2 out of 3 times. And actually, do I go into the Clefable? This is a really tough position for me, right? Like, I can't... Yeah, like, this is really bad, because if he were to get the 2-hit KO on the Clefable, then could end up going really badly. I think the correct play here is still going for the Clefable, and even if it 2-hit KOs, I can kind of go into the Garchomp, take advantage of the fact that it's locked into EQ. If it's locked into EQ, Garchomp can beat it 1v1. And if he doesn't lock into EQ, then Clefable is going to be, Toxapex is going to be able to hard beat that. So I just need enough chip on this Darmanitan for me to win with the Garchomp, right? Like, plus, as long as I don't miss the Scale Shot, I can let my Garchomp outspeed this Darmanitan and come out on top that way. And it does seem like this is going to be a roll to KO in much in his favor, and he does get this, even if it even is a roll, so, because I wasn't really calculating too much. Maybe I should have. So yeah, as I said, I have to go into the Garchomp here, and actually I can just either click the Scale Shot or click the Earthquake. Either is going to be pretty good, right? And then if the Darmanitan comes back in again against the Garchomp, I'll just go hard into Toxapex. If he calls that and goes EQ, then good for him, but I'm going to be put in the same position with the Garchomp, where it's going to be very offensively threatening, because it's going to have that free turn to go for the Scale Shot. So I'm going to go EQ into the Ferrothorn, take it out. And the reason why I couldn't go for the Scale Shot or Swords Dance or just about any other play was because he did reveal the Mimikyu, right? Yeah, that was his lead. So I was never not going for the Earthquake. And Earthquake would have broken the Mimikyu Disguise, would have 2-hit KO'd the Ferrothorn coming in. It is all around the best play. And let's see what he goes for. If he goes out into the Mimikyu, then I'm forced to switch out. And he can indeed take advantage of that with the double out into the Darmanitan, which would be a risky play, but a very valid one. But because it has already taken a lot of chip damage from the Toxics, then maybe I can actually kind of spam recover on it and try to come out on top here. So I'm gonna go for the recover. I want to stay as healthy as possible, because if I can beat this Mimikyu 1v1, or he switches out into the Rillaboom, not Rillaboom, Darmanitan. Both are, I guess, similar in my head. I don't know. So he goes for 2 Swords Dances, which is very greedy of him. And I'm gonna be able to... Yeah, this is way too greedy by him. I go for the Haze, and I'm at full health. So, and Mimikyu isn't able to pressure damage onto the Toxapex. I can just go for the Scald. If he goes into the Darmanitan, it is way too late. And I can, as long as I can come out of this matchup with a lot of health, enough health, then I can just win the game. And he just lets the Mimikyu take the Disguise, take the burn, and that is going to honestly seal up the game, because even if now this is way too late for him to do anything. If he were to go into the Darmanitan and get some crit EQs, anything like that, and actually beat the Toxapex, I can just go into the Garchomp and try to win that way. Because even if he can't really switch into the Darmanitan safely on the top Scald, then I'm just going to be able to recover a few times, get the Scald, and switch the Toxapex right back out and kind of try to preserve as much HP on the Toxapex as possible with the Regenerator and win like that. See, like Darmanitan takes a lot of damage, so I could actually just go for one Recover and Scald, or I could just go for the Scald right away. Either way is going to make sure that I beat this Darmanitan 1v1 with the Toxapex. It's already taken way too much damage. So yeah, I do go back down to 43 HP, but I recover up, and as you'll see, I started this turn with 149 HP, and I came out on top with 131. So like as long as I was staying out of the EQ range by decently large enough of a margin, I was good to go, right? Like I was never losing this 1v1 because now that Darmanitan is toxic, it can't make enough progress against the Toxapex with just by spamming EQ and getting 11, 12 HP per turn. That is not enough progress. So I am gonna take out the Darmanitan. I said, oh my god, I did that again. And I'm just gonna go back and I don't even switch out for the Regenerator. I can just recover, and even if he somehow miraculously gets this crit and KOs, actually a crit doesn't even KO, and Toxapex just wins the game just like that. That feels good. And as usual, I'm just gonna speed up the rest of the clip here because this is going to be a lot of games. This game against Eric, I did get a lot of wins in a row, but this is a very terrifying matchup because of the Alola Ninetales, which has a really good offensive matchup against me, especially with the Freeze Dry. It might have it, it might not. But I'm just gonna almost be forced to leave with the Amoonguss here and try to put that to sleep. And maybe I can take advantage of that and go to town. I bring Garchomp to check the center. Excuse me. So yeah, I do get the Ninetales lead right. Wasn't too hard to get it right, but here we go with the Amoonguss. Kind of hoping he just goes for the Blizzard or Freeze Dry and doesn't do enough damage for the Spore. That'd be really nice. Veil, not the best. He goes for the Blizzard. That is the best case scenario. I said Veil is not the best case scenario because that would mean that Ninetales might actually survive the close combat from the Urshifu, and that would make it give it a few more turns to actually wake up, right? Like I just want to KO this Ninetales as quickly as possible, and I'm just gonna bank on him getting more than one turn sleep. Just go hard into the Urshifu and try to take my KO. And if he were to burn more turns of sleep, I would have just gone into the Garchomp, sack it, and give my Amoonguss a bit more health to recover off with the Regenerator. But that doesn't happen. He does. Remember, the Ninetales did not burn any turns of sleep. And I'm just going to go for the close combat. If he has Sableye, so be it. I'm not clicking Wicked Blow into something that could potentially into the Ninetales or anything like that. Yeah, he does bring in the Toxapex, but there was no way in hell I was just kind of gonna risk that and try to fish for wishful thinking type of play, right? Like I do get the Toxapex, which is better than the Cinderace or anything that could be threatening me offensively. So I'm just gonna go straight into the Do I go for really go for the Amoonguss? Yeah, I need to go into Garchomp here. I can't afford to let the Ninetales wake up. Garchomp is going to threaten the Toxapex, and it's going to give it the Ninetales minimum opportunity to wake up. That's the Scald immediately. Unfortunate, but I'm just gonna go for the EQ. I can't afford to Swords Dance on the Scald Burn, so I'm just gonna at least take my damage where I can get it on the Toxapex. Kind of still hoping that he doesn't burn. That would not be ideal, but if I Swords Dance on the burn, that would just instantly lose the game for me, as opposed to getting the immediate damage with the EQ. That could actually get me somewhere with the Urshifu, now that the Toxapex is slow, you know. And I go for the Earthquake. I don't think this will KO unless I get a crit. Yep, that does not KO. And he goes for the Scald. He praying for the 2 burns in a row, but doesn't get it. And I can get the EQ on this, either the Chansey or the Ninetales. I'm just gonna go for the EQ, force him to either go take the damage on the Ninetales or let me set up against the Chansey. Right, like if he goes Chansey, EQ isn't going to be out damaging the softball, but that doesn't matter. I can just click Swords Dance after seeing the Chansey, right? Like, so this is way better for me to break any potential Focus Sash on the Ninetales. Right, like if I Swords Dance and that's Sash Ninetales, I could just lose the game on the spot. That would be really bad. And there's no way in hell I'm risking that, because Ninetales, you hate to lose to it, you know. And then here, there was actually no chance of him waking up. He did not burn any turns of sleep, as he switched out immediately, which I do think was a poor play. But this will let me remove the most threatening member of his team for free. And does he bring out the Toxapex? Interesting. So he knows that EQ is going to KO. So what he's trying to do is just go out into the Chansey and scrape as much HP out of this as possible by baiting the EQ. So I'm just gonna go for the Swords Dance here. Even if he gets the Scald Burn, not the end of the world for me. I can just Wicked Blow a bunch of times. Toxapex can't switch into that. And I am just gonna go for the Swords Dance EQ. And that is gonna claim the game here. Chansey can't outstall a +2 Garchomp, though it can outstall a +1 unboosted Garchomp. That actually did way more damage than I thought. If that Chansey should not be taking that much damage from the EQ, but I mean, as I said, we take those. I am gonna survive this hail damage by a little bit, and just click the Earthquake one more time, and I win the game. So that's a lot of wins in a row. I almost lost track. And yeah, actually, you see me check the hail turn, because in case it is Baneful Bunker, but it's last turn of hail, so even if he had Bunker, that wouldn't be enough to take out this Garchomp. And I take this. After a 1-2 start, this win streak is exactly what I'm looking for to get into the leaderboard. So as you see, I'm solidly not now above 1500, but I still get an opponent below it. This sometimes happens, like, don't worry about it, but it kind of sucks in a competition like this where my games are limited, right? Like, I'm not gonna get as many points out of winning this one. It's a really interesting team with the Armaldo, Cincino. I do go for the Clefable. It has the Rocky Helmet, should really own the Cincino. Toxapex is going to be able to haze away any boost from this Drift Blend. and my Zapdos is gonna try to check his what do you call it, the Magnezone, because usually Magnezone can't beat the Zapdos 1v1. Here, kind of at this point is where I realized that I probably should have been especially defensive on my Zapdos, because I'm physically defensive on the Toxapex and the Clefable, so, and I'm quite weak to special attackers. He goes for the sub against the Toxic. Fair. I don't really lose too much from, what do you call it, going for the Toxic though, so I think that was worth taking the risk, because, I mean, it's not even really a risk, right? Like, this Drifblim is not making any progress against this Toxapex. And, yep, he is the minimized substitute Baton Pass set. So I can just go for some Scalds, break some substitutes, and put it at low enough health. Hopefully, like, he has like some kind of Citrus Berry or anything like that. And that would, and he eats that, that's a one-time item. I can haze the boosts away, can't really pass anything, and he would be forced to go into something else in order to make progress, you know, like, and that would be really crippling. It wouldn't be really crippling because Drifblim was not getting anywhere to begin with, but I'm making progress. I have a chance to make progress, and there's no chance he makes progress. So I'm okay kind of sitting in front of this, kind of getting to see what his set is. And his substitute does break. So I can, at this point, there's no reason for him to not go for sub. I'm just gonna keep Scalding, because I am okay with this. Actually, how about I speed the rest of the video until he actually does something. So I'm gonna actually be the one to break this cycle, and I'm gonna go into the Clefable. If he were to be a set without an attacking move, I'm just gonna Calm Mind all over this Drifblim, and I'm gonna just ignore any minimized boosts because of my unaware. So I'm okay with that. And if he were to be a move with an attacking move, then he doesn't have a recovery. So I can also make progress that way. And once the Drifblim is done, it's taken damage, can't recover health, then I should just be able to win by, even if I am just getting into a deadlock. But I do believe that once I get a lot of Calm Mind boosts with the Clefable, should be able to come out on top. He does go for the Strength Sap, which will recover health, but not enough, and he will recover less and less with my Clefable's low attack. So I'm gonna Calm Mind up here. I could break this up, or I could go for another Calm Mind. Go for another Calm Mind here. Kind of maybe a bit greedy, but shouldn't be the end of the world, as I do need the Calm Mind boost to to threaten the Cincino and the Armaldo with the KO right away. I don't want it to go for some Cincino to kind of get flinches or anything annoying like that. Though even if he were to get a flinch with the thing, I can just kind of kill it back with the what do you call the Rocky Helmet. So taking ages for him to pick his recipient. It's going to be Armaldo, and I get the Calm Mind. Maybe I was better off going for the Moonblast. Maybe Moonblast is a 2-hit KO, even with just +1. So I am gonna go for the sub break. I'm gonna have to break the substitute sooner or later, and I might as well break it when I am at full health. So, and then I'll try to recover off as much as help as possible, and then do that again. He goes Rock Blast and gets 5 hits. Unfortunate. So, but that means that unless he gets a string of 5 hits, I can just recover that off. Unless he has some kind of other move, that could be kind of really annoying. I am not afraid of anything silly like a King's Rock on the Armaldo, because I do think it'll be on the Cinccino instead, so I can actually safely softball, not softball, but Moonlight on this. He goes for the Liquidation, which it does way less damage, but it is a fair play. I could see where he was coming from, because if he gets the defense drop, that could have been pretty threatening. But he is just gonna go for random attacks here, as it seems. He just tried clicking one of everything, and I think if I were to get the defense drop, I would just go right back out into toss effects. I can't afford to lose my Clefable. But now, thanks to him just going for random attacks, I'm just going to be able to go for 2 Moonblasts and KO this. I might go for one more Moonlight before going for the 2-hit KO, but either way, what doesn't change is that I'm making progress. He actually lives on 1 HP. And I do think it's actually kind of a misplay to go for the, what do you call it, the Moonblast as opposed to Moonlighting. But, I mean, whatever, chances are I'm still going to win the game. He goes back into Drifloon. So yeah, this is what you get, like, when you face someone that is fairly low, like, he might make a lot of misplays here. Because, like, this is a misplay, because if whatever he had in the back, even if it's something that can't actually beat Clefable, like, his best chance was going to that and hoping that he gets a crit or something, anything silly like that. Because now I'm at full health, and now whatever he has in the back is going to have an even tougher time beating this Clefable, so I'm gonna just be able to spam Moonblast and win the game. And he reveals his last Pokemon, which is Garchomp. So yeah, if he had brought out the Garchomp, maybe he would have gotten a KO with Earthquake. Maybe even if it doesn't, then he could have gotten a crit or something like that. And he goes for the Sandstorm, which is wild. What a set. This guy's having fun. I missed the Moonblast. I could actually lose if he gets enough Rock Slide flinches or enough misses, things like that. Let's see how this works out. Yeah, he does have Rock Slide. He is trying his best to pull this off with the Garchomp, but no, Clefable says no. It's gonna take out the Garchomp with a boosted Moonblast. Gonna be winning my 6 games in a row here against the a bit of a lower rated opponent, but a win's a win nonetheless. I just have to win against what's in front of me. So this is going to be a very interesting Moltres team. So I do think it's a very free Urshifu lead. And I also go for the Garchomp because I want to check the Moltres. Urshifu might lose to Moltres 1v1. And I also want to bring Clefable because his Garchomp is probably his best thing offensively against me. So I'm just gonna nip that in the bud. He does lead Moltres here against my Urshifu. Kind of annoying matchup. I could go into the Garchomp. I think I do go for the Wicked Blow, but maybe I actually should have gone. I clicked it and I was like, maybe I should have gone into Garchomp. But what's done is done. I go for the Wicked Blow, and that does a ton, but not enough to KO. And yeah, I get burned by the Flame Body. But I think at least one good thing is that he actually went for the Wisp as opposed to just any other attack. And this will mean that I am gonna get the KO even after the burn, right? He didn't go for the Roost, he didn't go for an Air Slash or anything like that. So I am grateful that this Moltres just went down like that. Even though Urshifu is burned, it's still going to be able to do a ton of damage to anything like a Garchomp, which cannot one-hit KO my Urshifu, or the Tyranitar, anything like that. So actually I think I might just save this burned Urshifu for the Bronzong, or I could go for the Wicked Blow. I go for the Wicked Blow. This EQ is not going to take out this Urshifu because it's just that physically bulky. It is a slow Garchomp, which was not what I was expecting. It might be Adamant. Don't think Adamant is good just because like Urshifu is such a big ass threat. There's no way that extra bit of damage is worth it. You know, like invest in bulk if you have to, because that's gonna let you survive hurricanes. Bulk with citrus, something like that could be good, but don't take out of your speed. You know, like okay, he just goes for the Scale Shot here, which means that I get the Clefable in for free. But even if he EQ'd, that was not going to be doing terribly much. So I do get a free switch into the Clefable, but I'm just going to be able to get this Moonblast off with the Wicked Blow damage. That should easily KO the Garchomp. And honestly, I don't see how they can win with whatever they have in the final slot. And like just because like okay, he brings in Dusclops, right? I think that's Dusclops. And there's no way it can actually beat the Clefable 1v1 in time, so he just forfeits a lot of wins in a row, and kind of getting nervous because I'm thinking it's possible that I actually can place pretty high. And this is going to be my final game for today, and this is going to be against a pretty standard team. It's got the Garchomp, got the Zapdos, got the Urshifu, the whole thing. I do want to use my Amoonguss in order to put things to sleep. Urshifu has a really good matchup here. And maybe I want to bring Zapdos for the Togekiss. Maybe I'm okay with just bringing Clefable. It is tough. I definitely want to bring Clefable for the Garchomp and the Urshifu. And I do bring the Urshifu because that is my best way to check the, what do you call it, the Aegislash, right? So, actually, it's not the best way to check Aegislash, but it's just one way to kind of not have to play the Cella game, because I can actually beat the Aegislash 1v1 with either the Amoonguss or the Clefable, but it is conditional. So like if I were to get a Calm Mind boost and he attacks with the Flash Cannon first or goes for the Iron Head, I will be able to knock out the Aegislash 1v1 with the Flamethrower, boosted Flamethrower. Here I do have the ability to just go for the foul plays. And this is a bit of a game of chicken here, because if he goes for the... Yeah, here he just simply goes for the Shadow Ball, because he doesn't know that I have foul play just yet. So, though he could have honestly just gone for the, what do you call, the a King Shield and stall for a single more tick of leftovers, but it doesn't really change the whole big picture here, as he is eventually forced to attack, and I am able to break the disguise, the substitute with the foul play. And now if he were to sub on a foul play, then that is 25 health gone. And if he were to, let's say, King Shield, and I could Spore there, so like this, he does get this play right. I'd just go for the safe mid-ground play of going for the Synthesis, because I kind of wanted to see how he was going to try to approach this. And now he's just going to go for another substitute, and that is perfectly fine. Actually, I forgot to PP up my Amoonguss, which is a pain, because this is going to actually take a lot of PPs, this exchange. But fortunately for me, he switches out, and he doesn't play the game. Unfortunately for me, though, that switch-in is the Togekiss. And if he were to get Air Slash Flinch here and 2-hit KO, that could be really bad, depending on his spread, right? Like, if he is bulky Togekiss, I've seen a lot of bulky Togekiss, and I don't flinch, so that was actually going to 2-hit KO, so I think that's a pretty offensive Togekiss. A defensive one wouldn't have 2-hit KO'd. And I can either go into the Clefable and start Calm Minding, or I could go into the Urshifu and threaten it out with the Poison Jab, now that I know that it is not going to be able to take a Choice Banded Poison Jab, you know. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to get up a Calm Mind, and as long as he doesn't get the first turn wake, I should be pretty good here. Because once I get the Calm Mind, he can't Nasty Plot past me, so the odds are going to be in my favor. Though it's kind of a risky thing to bank on, always, against the Togekiss. Like, you don't want to be put in a position where you have to bank odds against Togekiss. But my team ended up the way it ended up turning out with the switches I made it really vulnerable to these types of reactive, this type of plays with how reactive the team has become. So that is going to be my big concern with my team going into the tournament, because I'm sure I'm going to be seeing a lot of stall breaking methods that rely on my passivity. But fortunately for me, no flinches for me this game. I'm going to be able to come out on top probably. And he brings in the Urshifu, and it's not even Dark Urshifu. So Amoonguss is going to be able to wall that. So do I go into the Amoonguss? Actually, like, if it here, I think if he is banded, how much that is going to do, that was why I was taking so long to go into the Aegis Amoonguss, excuse me. But he makes the clever double switch out into the Amoonguss, and I'm just gonna be okay with, because I already took a KO, kind of going into this extended 1v1 with the Aegis Slash and the Amoonguss. And if I ever get the foul play versus the Spore turn or the foul play turn right, then I'm gonna just be able to win the game. And he just goes for the Iron Head. Interesting play. That does quite a bit. He seems to be pretty strong, because I am almost no, I have got no physical bulk investment other than just the 252 HP. And actually, do I stay in here? I think I stay in, because the only way he can actually KO the Among Us was if he is banded with the only way he can KO my Among Us 1v1 locking into Surging Strikes is if he is banded. So for example, if he were to be Focus Sash Ice Punch, then he wouldn't be able to break through the Clefable because I am still at half HP, and I'll be able to just moonlight it off. So he does happen to be banded, but because he locked into Surging Strikes to KO the Clefable, it's not going to be able to KO the Urshifu, and this Rocky Helmet is going to put enough damage on the Urshifu for my own Urshifu to KO this with the close combat. So yeah, I'm gonna get 2... Right, so you see that I would have lived the Surging Strikes, because that was banded damage, and I lived 2, so quick math. But I don't know, maybe it was better to go into the Clefable first, because that did seem pretty close, so. But doesn't matter, I'm gonna win with the Urshifu close combat, and there's no way he can just take me out with a single Surging Strikes. And I win the speed tie anyways, so good game. So I'm gonna wrap this up and show you guys what my placing is after day 1. I didn't play all my 15 games, but this is where I finished on day 1. So yeah, 1601 in top 400. So especially considering that this was like day 1 going into day 2, this is a good start for me. That's gonna be it, guys. Going to upload more games, but as you see, this is a lot of games, so gonna take a while. Thank you guys for your patience. Bye.